Welcome, everybody, to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's guest is Dr. Brad Bader. He's a board-certified facial cosmetic and reconstructive surgeon running a private practice in Plano, Texas. Now, Dr. Bader attended medical school at the University of Texas, Houston Medical School, where he presented the Eugene D. Jacobs Award for Outstanding Scholastic Achievement, and he was elected to the prestigious Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society during his junior year. Now, he completed his residency at the University of Michigan, and he's presented his research at international meetings and recognized with the Merrill Lawrence Research Award and the Rontel Family Research Award. Now, Dr. Bader completed his fellowship at the Ohio State University, and he lectured and trained medical students and residents as a clinical association professor of otolaryngology. He's happily married with 3 wonderful children, and if you saw him, you wouldn't believe he has like teenage kids. Dr. Bader, welcome to Beauty and the Biz. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's just start with, just describe your practice and how did you end up in Plano?
So Plano is a suburb just north of the Dallas metro area. And this is where I was born and raised, was in the Dallas area. So it's a good place to work and live. So I kind of always had the idea that I'd return back home eventually. I did my medical school, residency, fellowship, just the way you described. And like most people, didn't have a great idea of exactly what I wanted to do, perhaps going to academics, perhaps private practice. Ended up starting a private practice in 2010. I was solo from day one. That was a little scary, but we kind of knew this is where we wanted to be in terms of the location. So I felt comfortable taking a risk and starting a practice, even if I got the initial iteration of my practice wrong. I knew I'd still be in an area that we enjoyed living. So that's how we ended up back here. I started out with 2 employees. I shared some employees' expenses, call responsibilities with an established ENT practice in town. And I was on staff at a hospital. I did call 2 weeks of every month. So it was a level 1 trauma center. So I did pretty much everything and anything when I very first started my practice, much of which was not at all what I do currently in my practice.
But how did you ramp up? When you first hang out your shingle, in the old days, it used to take like 10 years to develop a practice that could live on its own. And in today's world, you don't have that kind of time. Did you have a strategic plan for how you were going to get into this market? And did you specialize in cosmetic right away? Was it recon? Was it how did all that work out?
So no, there was no strategy. I think that was a great mistake. I think it's hard to know exactly what you want when you first start out. A lot of people have an idea, maybe what they want their practice to be, what they want to focus on. And I think most of us are wrong. I think that as time goes on and your focus becomes a little clearer on what you want out of your practice and out of your life, things change. I think very few people have a practice today that has a whole lot of resemblance to the practice when they first started. My practice when I first started, I was doing everything from head and neck cancer, resections and reconstructions. I did a lot of facial trauma. I did a lot of skin cancer reconstruction, facial reanimation, much more reconstructive focused practice. And out of that, I sort of at least had the financial stability, because those cases were available to me, to reinvest in the practice and start focusing a little bit more on aesthetics. So my first office was on the campus of a hospital. It was not a great location. It was not visible. The office was not at all focused towards aesthetics, both in the setting and just the strategy overall. And it wasn't until January of 18 when I opened my current practice. This is in a much better location. The office is beautiful, and we've really been focusing on aesthetics since that time. So early on in my career, my practice looked totally different than it does today.
Well, I did notice that In your practice now, it's beautiful, by the way. It looks like it's not in a hospital, but it looks like it's in a building, but much more like a consumer kind of strip mall, kind of upscale kind of thing.
Yeah, we're in a corridor called the Dallas North Tollway, which is the major north-south artery through the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's in an affluent area, and we're in a mixed-use development. So right below me is a Tex-Mex restaurant.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can smell as soon as they turn the kitchen on. It smells great. But yeah, it's a little bit of a different setting compared to a traditional medical office building or standalone medical office condominium. So we've got shops, we've got restaurants, there's apartments, movie theaters. It's a walkable neighborhood, and it's right next to a major thoroughfare. So different setting, but we're much more visible. We've got a huge digital sign that faces the tollway, and there's about 180,000 pairs of eyeballs that drive up and down that tollway every day. So we're more visible, we're more accessible, and overall, it's a better setting for us.
Now, when you did that, did it shift your, recon versus cosmetic?
When we moved offices, yes, we definitely, and then it's been an evolution. And slowly, I've dropped the things that no longer make sense financially, and that no longer interest me as much. Everything has an opportunity cost, and I really enjoy doing reconstructive work, facial injuries, and facial cancers. Those patients are incredibly appreciative, and I learned so much from them, and it was a huge part of my practice. But as time goes on, you realize your time is better spent pursuing higher paying procedures, which in our business tend to be the cash pay cosmetic procedures. So we just recently stopped taking insurance entirely the last 6 months. And I'll always be thankful for those early years and those patients. And I really got a lot of joy out of that practice. I miss it in some ways, but I've moved in a different direction, and I'm focusing more on the aesthetic part of our business now.
Well, they've made it so darn difficult for you to make a living on recon. And I hear that all the time. I love the work, but I have a family, and it's not just the opportunity costs of doing things that you want to do or not to do, but it's all the paperwork, all the time, all the focus that goes into that. It's very difficult to toggle both. So out of 100%, like how much of your practice is now cosmetic versus recon?
Oh, it's at the moment, it's probably 95% cosmetic.
Wow. Okay.
A year ago, it was more 75%. That's in terms of revenue. So, but in terms of focus, in terms of hours out of my day and man hours in terms of what the staff is focused on, it was more like 50-50. So it just doesn't make sense. You have to invest so much more to extract a dollar out of a reconstructive case compared to a cosmetic case. You have to hire more staff, billing company. You've got to have time to sit on the phone with a peer reviewer to get a patient's treatment plan approved. Just a lot of headache, and eventually you realize your time is not best spent that way, and you have to do what's best for the practice overall. So I think the general tendency as our practices mature is to move towards things that better reflect our time and expertise. And those are the cash paying cosmetic patients who choose you and seek out what you could offer them.
Well, you know what else I also noticed? When the patient realizes you take insurance, that can cause all sorts of negotiating things to happen, because the patient says, "Oh, as long as you're going to take insurance, can you also, fix the bump on my nose?" And it becomes, they're going back and forth between recon and cosmetic, and have you noticed that it can change the relationship with your patient when they think they're going to hand you an insurance card, and you're like, "No, I also need a credit card too."
Yeah, I agree. I think that it can complicate the physician-doctor relationship because there's a third party involved, and that's the insurance company, and they're the ones who have the paycheck. And patients in general have a poor understanding of what their benefits are, what their responsibilities are in their insurance plans. And I think insurance companies sort of they like that. They like the ambiguity. They want patients to rely on them for these decisions. And it's just so much easier when I'm offering a service or a product and the patient has a need or a desire. And that's where the power of price comes in. And if they decide that what I'm offering is worth it, that's what they pay. There's no third party involved. And so it's a simpler relationship. And I think we can understand each other quicker that way.
Right. So let's talk about the services you offer now regarding surgical versus non-surgical. I know you offer both. And have you found that you need the non-surgical to get to the surgical? Or what's your philosophy on that? Are you trying to be like a one solution kind of shop, a one-stop shop? Or would you rather just focus on the surgery and offer non-surgical if you have to?
We offer non-surgical. I have one esthetician in the office, and she offers adjunctive procedures, radiofrequency microneedling, and non-ablative lasers, chemical peels, skincare. And the patients really appreciate that. I think when I first started practice or really started focusing on aesthetics, I sort of bought into the philosophy or the idea that having the aesthetic services can bring in surgical patients. And I think that there's still some truth to that. But the scale of that was never impressive. I feel like most of my surgical patients actually come to me because that was their initial interest. So they find me through other channels. So bringing patients in for a hydrofacial, it didn't really expand our patient base relative to the cost involved in providing those services.
It's a jump to go from hydrofacial to rhino.
Yeah. I think the other non-surgical part of the practice is the injectable practice. And I think that there's no question the injectable practice, Botox and filler, it can definitely augment the income in the short term, but also help grow your patient population overall. There are plenty of patients that initially saw me for lip filler and Botox or something very simple. They're very happy with that, and then eventually they graduated to a surgical procedure. So I found the growing the patient population a little bit more true in terms of offering non-surgical injectable services rather than the aesthetic services.
Gotcha. And then regarding staff, you said an esthetician, who else is on board? And are you pretty much obviously the main revenue generator, but is the esthetician bringing in anything, or is it just a nice thing to have, or is it difficult to manage?
Maybe all of the above. So we have a total of 4 patients. I'm sorry, 4 employees that are full-time. And then we have 2 part-time employees. My esthetician is really the only the esthetician on days when I'm in the operating room. So if I'm away at the surgery center on Tuesdays, for example, she stacks her patients on those days. And we have some patients that really love her and the services she provides. And overall, I guess it's a net positive to the practice. On the other days, though, she's kind of my closest assistant. She's in all the patient interactions with me. She sees the post-op patients. She talks to. She's kind of the primary source for patients after they've had surgery for questions or concerns. So she has a lot of value beyond just those Tuesdays when she can bring in some revenue. We have 2 staff up front, which answer phones, communicate with patients via text, which is what we find most patients prefer these days, scheduling, rescheduling, those sorts of things. We have a patient care coordinator, and she works full-time on obviously chasing down leads and being in consults with me and closing those leads. And then we have somebody who helps with in-office surgery procedures. She's one of our part-time employees. And then we have another part-time employee who's getting ready to go out on maternity leave. So at the moment we have 4 full-time and then the 2 part-time.
So any challenges there? Any pearls of how you fire, hire, motivate?
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge at my practice the last several years was staff. And it took me a long time, longer than it should have, to realize what the problem was. And it was a problem culture. So I recently actually had to let my manager go because ultimately I found that the reason for the culture or the large part, was it started with her. And I didn't do a great job of recognizing the problem. Fortunately, I was able to recently turn it around, and I've got some very loyal staff that kept me apprised of what was happening, things I was missing. And at the moment, we've got a very solid staff that I'm very proud of and happy with. I think creating a culture is super important. We all talk about it. I think it's harder to actually do and practice. One of the things that I recently heard, which I love, in terms of culture starting from the top, is, if the doctor sneezes, the staff feels a hurricane, right? So any emotion I'm having is amplified, and the staff feel that maybe in a different way than I intend. So I feel like if I'm not having a great day, the staff can perceive that some things that were totally unintended. So I've just got to be very careful with my mood and my emotions, and that can trickle down really quickly and create a not so happy atmosphere. So the things that I found useful, giving praise, it's super important. Constructive criticism and positive feedback are always welcome. I like to give random bonuses, not necessarily scheduled or tied to some specific financial outcome, but just feel like you're doing a great job. Here's a little more money on your check this week. I like to educate. I like them to understand what it is I'm thinking, and it helps them feel a little more confident when they're interacting with patients as well. I find delegating appropriate tasks, empowering them to solve problems. Everyone wants to feel important. Everyone wants to feel like they're part of the team, that they're trusted. And so as much as I can, I like to delegate tasks and ask them to achieve things. And then when they do, give the appropriate praise. So if the staff want to be part of the winning team, you need to share the success. And when there's failure, everyone needs to understand the lessons and move on from it.
Well, the missing link I often see between the surgeon and the staff is the surgeon doesn't realize all arrows point to him. And however you're feeling, that is so true, that statement. However you're feeling, it's magnified by them because they're watching your every move and you're setting the tone. And then meeting with them regularly. I find that a lot of surgeons have said, oh no, I've given everyone their tasks. They all know what they're supposed to do, but then they're not checking up on them. And that's when things can go sideways, like money walking out the door, because you think certain things are happening that are not. And you always find out in the worst ways, it's always like, what, dear. So I would just say, communicating with the staff regularly, reminding them what your standards are and your expectations and how you envision this practice to grow and run. And they've got to all understand where you're trying to go. And I just find a lot of times the surgeons are not, maybe the surgeons aren't even clear on their own. I don't know what, maybe they don't know what, but boy, staff will, you have to take the full responsibility for staff. You hired them, you trained them or didn't, you managed them or didn't, and there's nothing easy about it.
No question. I mean, I don't duck responsibility for example, the staff turnover that we've had recently. I'm 100% responsible for whatever happens in the practice. But yeah, I think what you said is correct, that sometimes the surgeon or the lead physician doesn't have a clear vision of what the practice should be or what he or she wants the practice to be. And my feeling is that I've been doing this since 2010, and I only recently understood, I think, what I want out of my practice and what I really want to focus on. And that's helped a lot, because once you understand what you're trying to achieve, then creating a plan, creating a path becomes a lot easier. It's very easy to say, well, I just want to grow all things in all directions. And for so long, that was my focus. I want to buy this laser. I want to hire this injector. I want to create this skincare line. I want to open this location. And I think that model works for obviously a lot of surgeons, physicians who've been extremely successable. But there's a lot of different ways to achieve what you want. And I've really kind of distilled down what I want my practice to be, just really in the last year or so. what we're trying to do is not necessarily grow. We're actually trying to get a little smaller, more focused, create a core competency, and really compete more on a national, even an international level. That's kind of the direction we're going right now. So at the moment, I'm really focusing on rhinoplasty. I feel like that's our core competency. That's what I really enjoy. It's what I think that I do best. And so we're really structuring the practice around that idea. We want to be sort of a destination location for patients seeking rhinoplasty.
By the way, on your website, you have rhinoplasty, revision rhinoplasty, and preservation rhinoplasty or something. What is that?
I mean, the reason for the website is, as you know, SEO and the website guys like to create a lot of words, and that's how the search bots find you, right? So, but yeah, rhinoplasty is kind of what we think of as traditional rhinoplasty. Revision rhinoplasty is for patients that are happy with the rhinoplasty, and then preservation rhinoplasty is a newer concept that is kind of all the rage right now. When COVID happened, we all had a lot of time. And one of the things that I did is I was really looking for something new in rhinoplasty. What's out there? What have I never heard of, seen before? Let's try something totally different if I can find it. And I started reading and consuming all of these newer techniques coming out of Turkey. Okay. So Turkey is sort of the world capital of rhinoplasty. And these surgeons, they're incredible. The amount of volume they do, they'll do 500 to 800 rhinoplasties a year. That's more than the average American surgeon does in his entire career.
Right.
So incredible amount of volume, and they learn things very quickly because when you're doing that many surgeries, you pick up on things. So preservation rhinoplasty is the idea of, instead of, for example, you have a bump on your nose and you're going to shave it down. That's kind of the traditional technique. They're using techniques to actually create room below the bridge of the nose and sink the whole nose down. So it theoretically is less destructive. It requires less dissection, faster healing, potentially better results. So I got really into that. And I actually traveled to Turkey in February of this year, so just recently. And I really wanted to see what these guys were doing because the results were almost unbelievable, the things they could do.
I used to live in Turkey, Istanbul, for 1 year, and I would say, 9 out of 10 of them needed a rhinoplasty. That is the perfect culture. They all are very similar bone structure, and noses are very prominent there.
Yeah, it's the kind of the classic Mediterranean nose.
Right.
The practices I visited, there were 2 in Istanbul and 1 in Antalya, which is a coastal city. And it's really interesting, Catherine. They have actually, they're basically destination practices. They actually don't operate on Turks. They only operate on foreigners. Mm-hmm. So they recruit these patients from all over. I was there for a week, and I met at least one patient from every continent. And it was really eye-opening because these guys, they're phenomenal surgeons, just very nice people, very open, educated me in a lot of different ways. They have small staff. They have 1 or 2 room offices. Their staff were mainly hired for their language skills. Mm-hmm. So they would have somebody who spoke German, Russian, and French. And her job is to sit around all day and wait for the Instagram and WhatsApp messages to come in from patients who prefer those languages. Mm-hmm. That's how they get their patients. And these patients travel from all corners of the world to Istanbul or to Antalya. And their population is similar to most rhinoplasty practices. It's by and large young females. Mm-hmm. So you would meet these 20-year-old females from London or Colombia or Singapore or Australia. And they would travel alone to a country they've never been to, or they don't know anyone. They don't speak the language. And they've literally got a bag full of cash because that's the only payment they'll accept. Mm-hmm. And they're going to stay in Turkey for 7, 10, 14 days. Mm-hmm. And you might ask, well, why are they doing that? Why don't they? I mean, surely there are surgeons back home that can do these procedures. And the truth is, it's all about the result. And that's what really opened my eyes. These guys are doing the surgery and achieving results at such a high level that they can literally attract patients from across the globe because these patients see something on Instagram, that's what they want. They maybe have consults with local surgeons and they just don't perceive the results being anywhere close. So it was just a really interesting model. And
well, are they charging less for a rhino than we are here in the States? They have to be.
some do, some do, some charge much more.
Mm.
And I think they're always struggling a little bit with demand and their pricing, because the idea of traveling overseas makes sense if you're going to save money, but
Yeah.
it becomes a little bit of a harder decision if the expense is equivalent or even more than what you would pay at home.
Mhm.
So I think is for every one patient that actually goes and has their surgery there, there's probably 10 others at least that are highly motivated and want to have a rhinoplasty, but for whatever reason, they're not going to travel to Turkey, right? It's just too far. It's too scary, whatever it might be. So my idea is if I can somehow achieve similar results and market in the same way and capture some of those patients that are out there that are looking for these kind of elite level results, if I can somehow tap into that market, that's kind of where we're focused at the moment.
Well, but Google's making that very difficult for you to do because everything's gotten, so geographical. Like you have to, if I'm sitting in Sausalito, they want to give me a rhino guy in Sausalito. Do you have a strategy for that? Will they show you to the world?
So in Google, I don't know. And in reality, we've invested a lot in Google AdWords and SEO optimization, and the results have been disappointing. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're right. It mostly delivers local patients. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to expand your market, if you want to be visible to patients beyond your market, but are willing perhaps to travel, I think Instagram's a better option. Being able to harness their algorithm, because they know who's scrolling through and looking at rhinoplasty pages and results and who they follow and what they click on and what they interact with. In my novice mind, I feel like Instagram gives us an opportunity to market to these patients that are looking for rhinoplasty, no matter where they are, and whether it's ads or using hashtags or there's a couple of different strategies we use. There's just a lot more chatter that we get back through Instagram when we put some dollars into that channel compared to Google, where there really never seems to be much of a change, no matter what we spend or how we spend it.
Well, with Instagram, it's a floating platform. You never know what's going to happen. I always suggest that you somehow have a mechanism set up. You offer some kind of lead magnet or some kind of special report to then get them to a landing page to give you their name, their cell phone, their email. So at least you own that, because overnight, you've seen that. Well, you're doing face, but the body guys are getting kicked off left and right, and
I got a post taken down of a nose for nudity. It's a nose.
Why?
Who knows? I mean, it's not humans making these decisions. These are computer algorithms, and they make mistakes. But good luck ever talking to a human to correct it. But you're right. It's their pool, and they can kick us out whenever they want. So it's a little bit dangerous to really only focus on the one channel.
Well, you know how I'm looking at it currently? Instagram, social media leads, I call them inquiries, because they're so far out of their mindset, their geography, their reality. They're just inquiries right now. So I'm always trying to figure out for my clients how to automate that part and then get humans involved when they're more serious. And then you have to decide, well, what is that fence that they had to jump over to get serious? And, whether it be like the opt-in, if they were willing to give you their contact information, maybe they're more serious. So like, for example, I would say, you want to know the prices now? Sure. I just need your contact information. So at least I have a chance of nurturing them or finding out if they're at all really in the market, or do some kind of a quiz, some fun quiz, like, and ask that question. When are you thinking about having this done? Because if they're just fooling around, that's the problem with rhinoplasty, not problem, challenge. Rhinoplasty is already typically the younger person, typically, and they have no idea what they're doing. They don't know how much these things cost or what's involved, but they like the pictures. So, do you spend a lot of time educating? I saw your Instagram just showing great photos, and your TikTok's very cute. So you can tell who you're trying to market to. Talking about marketing, I was going to ask you about that, but you've pretty much answered it. It's very difficult to be a facial plastic surgeon and have those two roads. One is the younger rhinoplasty patient, and the other is the more mature facial rejuvenation patient. And she sees you on TikTok, and that completely turns her off. And the rhino patients see you, being all blah, 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 and maybe that turns them off. So the way you're going to handle it is basically you're going to pick one, aren't you? You're going with the rhino.
Yeah, I think that's where I'd like to go.
I agree.
Is focus on the rhinoplasty. I think that there's just, you're right, it's two different markets entirely. Not all that different from when I first started my practice, where half my waiting room was reconstructive patients who had big bandages on their face and they were having the worst day of their life. And sitting next to the patient who just wants a cute nose or is finally ready for that facelift. So I think being an expert is difficult in a field that's fairly broad, and I think the surgeons who do body plastics probably have the same type of problems. There's a difference between the 20-something breast aug patient versus the mommy makeover crowd. They're a little different stage of life. So I think presenting yourself, marketing yourself as an expert in all things face or all things body is easier than trying to be two people at once in terms of your personality. I try to be authentic. Sometimes I feel silly and I'll do something on TikTok and we can laugh about it, right? But I'm also a surgeon. I'm a professional, and I can sit down and have a very serious conversation about somebody's surgical options. And it doesn't feel fake or out of the norm for me. I think I can handle both. But in terms of what gets me up, what really excites me, what I enjoy doing, I think going in a rhinoplasty direction just makes sense for me right now in my practice.
Well, the riches are in the niches. By the way, how many shoes do you own? I would say that's part of your branding. I think every time I think of you, I think, my God, he has a lot of shoes, and they're all amazing. And you also have a very interesting Christmas suit. So you are quite a snazzy dresser. So has that helped a lot with attention?
I think so. I mean, I think it's just a way to express myself a little bit. I like clothes. I like shoes. I think it's, again, you don't want to be somebody you're not. I think that can be very insincere. Patients will see through that. But yeah, I get plenty of patients that first thing I do when I walk in the room is, let me see what shoes you have on today.
Yeah.
Because they know me and they know that's kind of one of my interests. It's I think being sincere in terms of social media marketing and in who you want to be or what part of your personality you want to portray. It's got to be authentic, and I think people who struggle with social media and find it a chore. I mean, we all find it a chore, but if you're doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do in your everyday routine, then it feels like a chore, okay? But picking out a fun pair of shoes or shopping for a silly suit, doesn't seem out of the norm for me. That's just kind of who I am. So when I do it and we capture on social media, I think it feels authentic, and patients connect with that for sure.
Well, you have a very good blend of the real you with the shoes and then the surgeon you. And I love, love, love. I wish more surgeons would do it. When you're showing the photo where you have a kid, he's, 20 years old, and he hasn't had a straight nose in 13 years. He could barely talk because he was so choked up with his result. You show that kind of emotional video. Well, you've got me, and I like all the mothers out there who have kids who are, so they have no confidence. Their self-image is shot because of the darn nose. I mean, that's transformational. And please show more of that, because that's what you're doing. You're changing lives one nose at a time,
Yeah, I think patients and people who are not in this industry, in rhinoplasty in particular, they don't recognize that it can be a life-changing moment for a patient. I have, over the years, had plenty of patients that look like a whole new person when I saw them in between their surgery and maybe their 3 or 6 month follow-up visit. It wasn't because their nose was different; it's because they felt different. Mm-hmm. Maybe at the pre-op visit, I met, a woman who didn't really do her hair, no makeup, didn't care what she wore, kind of looked down, never smiled. Maybe she's working part-time, not really going to school, and she brought the loser boyfriend with her. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then I see that same patient back at 6 months. The only thing that's changed, to her physical appearance is her nose, and she loves it. And she's got her hair up, and she's done her makeup. She's got a cute outfit on. She dumped the loser boyfriend. She's going to school now. I mean, it really can send your life in a different trajectory entirely. And I think people who don't have this problem right in the middle of their face, like these patients do, they'll never understand that. But I think being able to connect with those patients and offer them hopefully a way to change the path of their life, that's what I find so rewarding. Mm-hmm. I love those moments. Absolutely. They're fantastic. They're the reason that you want to get up and do it again the next day.
Right. So Instagram is probably your primary marketing channel. Are there any others? Are you involved in Real Self or YouTube, having your own channel? I saw you are also on TikTok, which I think you need to be if you're going after Rhino. But do you have a marketing plan?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok's mostly for fun. I wouldn't say we have a marketing effort there. Who knows? I think that'll change in the future. Instagram is our primary focus. We still have some money in Google AdWords and SEO optimization. I mentioned the video board that faces the road outside the office building. We get a ton of people that say, "Oh, I saw your picture," and just at least they see your brand. And maybe they have to drive up and down the road for 6 months before they decide to call. But it's just another channel. I'm trying to think of what else we might do.
Directories?
We did Real Self for a while. I dropped that. I just didn't find it useful. I put a lot of effort into it, but just didn't learn much. So we kind of moved on from that. We have a YouTube channel. Yeah, so I don't know. I got this idea of, I guess it's not unique, but I started analyzing like celebrity noses.
Right.
So we put out a bunch of YouTube videos. I haven't done one in a while, but it's called Dr. Bader Knows Hollywood. So I would analyze famous.
That is perfect.
And I would do a little morph. So I could, I'd say, well, here's what Tom Cruise or Bella Hadid would look like if she came to me for Rhinoplasty. Here's what I would offer. So
that's a great idea. Would you? Well, you can tell. Did you get a lot of likes or followers? Or, huh?
We got a lot of interest. I'll say that, and that was really my first experience, Catherine, with how ugly people can be online. Because, for example, I mentioned Bella Hadid, so I did a video on her nose, and by far I got the most number of views and comments, and a lot of them were sort of hateful, and oh my God, what did you do to her? It's a terrible. You botched her. Just for me analyzing her nose and offering how I would change it. And it wasn't I don't think I did it in a mean way. I said, look, here's what I see wrong with Bella's nose. If she came to me as a patient, here are the things I would tell her that we could improve upon, and here's how it would look. And there were so many patients that, or people out there that I think are just really big fans of Bella Hadid who didn't like my thoughts at all. So I've been a little shy to kind of reach out again to make some more of those. Plus, they take a lot of time. There's a lot of video editing, and you know about that. There's just only so many hours in the day. But yeah, it was fairly popular, and I used it mostly as an educational tool, because there are plenty of patients that will sit at home, or lay people that sit at home and say, well, there's nothing wrong with Kourtney Kardashian's nose. And I'll do a video kind of explaining from a rhinoplasty surgeon's perspective the many things that I see wrong with her nose. And she's had a rhinoplasty, so I can kind of go through her before and her after pics and the areas that maybe could still be improved upon. So it was not like a celebrity show where I'm saying, oh, her outfit's terrible, or it wasn't that. That wasn't the intent. Yeah, it was really just education. It was here's what a nose. Matt Damon. He's just his nose is very interesting. It's almost feminine. So I kind of pointed that out. Here's what's unique about Matt Damon's nose and why it looks a little different on him than most male noses that you see. So it was fun.
Well, if you want my 2 cents, I say keep doing it, because the more you create user-generated content with all those users commenting, and that's what Google wants. So your name and Rhinoplasty keep coming together. Keep doing it. Yeah.
All right. We'll think of that. Yeah, we gotta come up with it.
Yeah. Nowadays you can't just be the surgeon and the manager and the leader and the visionary, but you've got to be the marketer. So how many days or how many hours a day would you say you're spending on Instagram or YouTube?
Gosh, that's really hard to say. I'd say anywhere from 1 to 2 hours a day if I added it all up. And it can vary. I mean, I can go several days without putting any sort of marketing effort towards the website. Or towards the Instagram page. But it always seems like we're interacting with Instagram somehow, answering direct messages, responding to comments, those sorts of things, because we want our followers to know we're engaged and reachable.
Right.
It's a channel just like any others, and if we don't respond to inquiries, then they'll stop coming.
Yeah. I mean, would you say most of your business is coming from Instagram, and are you able to track that?
Yes, I'd say the vast majority of our new patients find us in some sort of fashion via Instagram.
Nice.
And since we've started to focus on the rhinoplasty and we've started to market our posts and our style of pictures and everything, the way in this new style and effort, about half of our consults are from patients out of town. So we're reaching a much larger audience than we were previously. We've got patients coming from Hawaii, Chicago, North Carolina, Florida, New York, all over really. And that's pretty new. I mean, I would maybe get 1 or 2 out-of-town patients in years past, but now about half of our new consults are out-of-town patients.
Wow. Are you doing open or closed rhino?
So I do both. At the moment, we're doing mostly open. With the preservation technique, I was doing mostly closed.
Okay.
But that's, that can vary. At the moment, I'm in an open mostly. Yeah.
Okay. And then do you do computer imaging?
We do, always.
Yeah.
I find that that's probably the most powerful tool to communicate with the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I did consults without it. I really don't. I always take photos and then I put it into a very simple imaging morph software. Mm-hmm. And I'll show them kind of the side view, the front view, and then the underneath view, the base view. And there's it's so informative for me and for the patient, because we speak a different language when it comes to rhinoplasty, right? Patients will use certain terms that honestly, they're really hard for me to interpret as a surgeon, because I'm used to using very technical terms.
Right.
So when somebody says my nose is hooked or there's a bump, or it's very hard for me to interpret what that means. But if I take a photo and I change something and they say, that's it exactly. Well, now we're on the same page. And I can, with their input, create something that is, our 10 out of 10 result that we're hoping to achieve.
Mm-hmm. And then are you also doing virtual consultations?
We do virtual consultations. The majority of our out-of-town patients choose to have a virtual for their first consultation. So yeah, we have through our EMR, we can have video chats in a HIPAA-safe way, and they can upload their photos, and I can morph them and send them back to it. So it's actually a pretty efficient way to do at least a rhinoplasty consult.
Now, are you letting anybody do a virtual, or do they have to live so many miles away from the office?
Anybody can do a virtual if that's their request.
All right. Then are you finding the close rate is better or worse virtually versus in person?
Boy, I'm not sure I've looked at that specifically, Catherine. I really can't answer. I mean, I think that the patients who are out of town
Mhm.
and are willing to pay a consultation fee and have a virtual call, they're probably a little further down the road to making that final decision. So it might be that their conversion rate is higher, but I don't know that for certain.
So give me one big mistake you've made so far. You've been at this for 12 years. They always say the smartest people don't make mistakes. They learn from everyone else's. Give me one.
Just one?
Yeah. A doozy.
Oh gosh, I've made so many. It's hard to. But I guess really from the beginning, not having a good idea, a vision, plan. I was just kind of putting one foot in front of the other, trying to get to the next day, the next week, the next month, with no grand vision. And I think that's really hard, at least it was for me, to understand what it was I wanted my practice to be, especially when you're just starting out. And you're worried about like paying next month's rent, right? It's really hard to say, okay, this is where I'm going to go and what I'm going to be. So I think as early as you can when you're starting your practice is, I know it sounds silly, but kind of come up with a goal, a mission, some endpoint, something to achieve. And it can even be just for that month or that year or 10 years. I don't know. But I never really sat down and had a goal, had a vision, had a strategic plan. And I think that was perhaps my biggest mistake. And it delayed me kind of progressing to the type of practice that I have now, probably because I just didn't have a roadmap of what I wanted and how to get there.
Well, if it's any consolation, I think you're ahead of the game because most surgeons, there isn't a well thought out plan. The plan was to get through medical school, residency and fellowship, and then open their own practice and figure out this business and marketing. Because, by the way, were you trained on any of that? Did you get any education on the business and marketing side of surgery?
So I have an undergrad degree in finance. So
nice.
Yeah, I've got some book knowledge, right? I know what an income statement is. I could teach myself accounting software. It made sense to me. And during my fellowship, one of the little things that helped me along, at least in private practice, is one of my duties was to figure out all the coding for every surgery I was involved with.
Oh, dear God.
Right. So nothing I received in residency, and I literally just had to start from scratch and teach myself. But it was a really valuable skill because I could start in private practice from day one. I was very comfortable with coding things properly for insurance procedures. For a while, I would give a course at our big national meeting every year on just how to code.
Wow.
This is how you get paid, and it's not hard, and you can absolutely do it. You don't have to hire somebody and pay them $50,000 a year. You just takes 30 minutes out of each day.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I did have a little bit more education, both in formal undergrad education, but also in fellowship. And maybe I was a little bit better prepared than the average surgeon just starting out.
Yeah. And then what skills do you think you need in today's world? Like, is there anything you're learning now that you didn't think you would have had to learn?
Social media, for sure, right? I mean, back when I started, it was all your marketing dollars need to go on your website, right? Just website, and search engine optimization, and that's still part of it. But having a beautiful before and after gallery on your website was the pinnacle, right? And now I'm not sure how many people actually search for those. Truthfully, at least in the rhinoplasty world, they go to your Instagram page. They're gonna scroll through your feed, and they're gonna look at your noses, and they're gonna figure out in a hurry if you're their kind of style. So learning Instagram, and I feel like I was a late adopter. We didn't really harness Instagram and all of its power till probably the last 3 or 4 years, honestly. So and I'm no expert by any means, and it's always changing. But I feel like the moment we found a way to connect with our patients and get a engagement and and we've really shifted our focus from quantity to quality in terms of our content. I'd much rather have 1 or 2 really solid posts a week than 8 to 10 that everyone just scrolls right past and doesn't hold anyone's interest. So we really focus on generating something that's going to catch eyes more than just pushing out as much content as possible.
So with this new clarity you have, which I love, focusing on the out-of-town rhinoplasty patient, does that change any of your other strategy? As in the office you're in, is it near the airport? Is there a nice hotel nearby? Are there nursing services that can take care of them? Like, are you thinking about that?
Absolutely. And it's a work in progress. But yeah, we want to be able to help our patients through every step of the way. We're centrally located, kind of in the middle of the country, and there's 2 major airports, so we're pretty accessible. Where we live is a fairly dense area, so there are plenty of options in terms of hotels and Airbnbs and VRBOs, and we want to create sort of a slate of different options, everything from cheap as can be to the penthouse at this very nice hotel and everything in between. So we're cultivating that now, and it's an area of focus for us is creating a seamless experience for our out-of-town patients.
That's great, because I had a client who was very high end and charged a fortune, yet you had to stay at like the Residence Inn or something, and I just thought, what a disconnect. Like, I mean, where's the Ritz? Or like, at least give me a Marriott or something. And I would just be cognizant of that, like.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to create an elevated experience for
right from beginning to end. So any last comments, any words of wisdom for anybody else coming up? Or
no, I mean, you know what? We're all learning. We're all just trying to get a little better every day. I don't want to give the impression that I've all got it figured out. I don't. Nobody does. But I think it's important to learn as much as you can. And I've always loved your podcast. I've always learned so much. The people you interview, your words of wisdom, and just the lessons that all of your guests have brought. I learned so much, and hopefully I've taught somebody out there something today. But just beyond that, read as much as you can, interact with as many colleagues as you can. It's so much easier to connect with people nowadays. It used to be you'd see everyone maybe once a year at a meeting, and it was really hard to extract very much information. But now there's Facebook groups, there's Telegram and WhatsApp groups, and it's so easy to text a colleague, to call them, whatever it be, to use all of the knowledge out there that's available to you, and reach out to new contacts and interact with those people as well. So I think you asked me about mistakes. I think that was a mistake of mine, is sort of just putting my head down and trying to figure it out all on my own, instead of exploiting some of the mentors and colleagues and their successes and failures and applying them to my practice. So don't feel alone out there. Everyone is trying to get a little better. Everyone's learning. Use your assets, use your resources, and it'll help you along.
Good words of wisdom. Congratulations on your growth, and I'm looking forward to watching you grow more. So if somebody did want to reach out to you, what is it's BaderFacialPlastics.com?
Yeah, BaderFacialPlastics.com. The Instagram is the same, BaderFacialPlastics. If of course, I'd love to hear from anyone out there that has any questions or words of wisdom or wanted my input on anything. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bader. I hope to see you again at a meeting coming up soon.
Yeah, I'll see you again soon, Catherine. Nice to see you.
All right. Thanks so much. All right, everybody, that wraps it up for us for Beauty in the Biz today. And if you would so kindly subscribe to Beauty in the Biz and leave us a nice review, that would be much appreciated. And if you've got any questions for me or Dr. Bader, you can certainly leave them on my website at CatherineMaley.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at CatherineMaleyMBA. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.